Well, welcome everyone. My name is Rowena Abdulrazak. I'm one of the student representatives to the council. The other representative is a speaker today, Leila Zenuzi. But just before we get to the speakers, I'd just like to make some introductory remarks. It's our third presidential session. We've had two already. The previous one was in environmental studies, and the first one, which was on publishing. The President, Nakme Sohrabi, is not here today, so on her behalf, we'd all like to say thank you very much for taking your time this Friday afternoon or morning, depending on where you are, to join us. Christine Rastampour and myself will be chairing the sessions, and just to say again, thanks for joining us. Today, we'll be looking at conferences and basically trying to understand how to make the best of your conference experience. We're holding this event in conjunction with the Salamanca conference next year, and the call for papers has already begun. You've got about a month to get your papers in, so this is also a gentle reminder for that as well. From my own personal experience, conferences are very, very much a big part of any PhD career, as well as early scholars and even senior scholars. It's a wonderful opportunity to get everyone together from all parts of the world. Personally, I've been to quite a few AIS conferences myself. They've always been a personal and professional pleasure to attend. I've learned so much just listening to other papers and taking the opportunity to meet my scholar heroes, as I call them, and make new friends and also seek new opportunities. So it's really just a wonderful experience, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what our speakers have to say about their conference experiences, and also to talk about AIS conferences in general. So just to today, we have three wonderful speakers, and we've got Leo Sternfeld, who is an associate professor of history and Jewish studies. He's a social historian of the modern Middle East, with particular interests in the histories of the Jewish people and other minorities of the region. He recently got tenured. Big congratulations to him. He's also a council member of AIS, so it's a great pleasure to have him with us today. And of course, with this academic career, he's been to many conferences, and I'm sure he'll share his experiences very shortly. After that, we have Dr. Miguel, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Andres Toledo, who is an associate professor at the Department of Classical Philology and Indo-European at the University of Salamanca. He's an assistant professor at the Department of Near and Middle Eastern Civilizations at the University of Toronto. Yeah, he has been the AIS conference chair for twice now because of COVID, and he's going to be sharing a lot about the organization of the conferences and about abstracts in general. So looking forward to hearing that. Thank you very much for doing this twice as well. And finally, it's with great pleasure that I introduce Leila Zenuzi, who is a PhD candidate in global studies at UC Santa Barbara. She's an AIS Student Council representative, as I mentioned earlier, and has organized and presented at many conferences during her doctoral studies. She, in fact, also helps organize this presidential session. So she's doing double work today. So without further ado, perhaps we can begin with the questions. This will take the form of basically an informed question and answer session. Christine and I will take turns asking questions to the panelists. They will then have 10 minutes or so to respond. And after that, we'll be opening it up to the floor. Please direct your questions to the chat box. And if you have anything, just get in touch with us. So I'll hand it over to Christine now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Roina. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us. My name is Shagaya Christine Rastampour, and I'm a research and communications assistant with the AIS. My first question is going to be from Dr. Miguel, who has helped organize this conference, so has a lot of experience and intel about what the conference is going to be about. Can you please begin by telling us what can we expect from the AIS conference at Salamanca?
First of all, thank you for kindly inviting me to this event and for organizing it, of course. What can you expect at the conference in Salamanca? Well, first of all, I have to mention what we couldn't expect. That was a pandemic, a global pandemic. Everything must be, of course, stopped. Everything had to be canceled. And that was really a pity because everything was arranged. We had a lot of participants. We expect also probably at least the same number of participants, if not even more. I would say probably, most probably, many more, because now we have a different format in comparison with the former conference. In the former conference, we introduced online posters and some different type of sessions, apart from the typical papers, panels, roundtables, and so on. This time, taking into consideration the possibility that participants in different countries still were not vaccinated, still have travel bans or some restrictions, or just problems with monetary budgets from their universities, whatever reason, we have to be very, very mindful in those situations. We have to be also careful that they can participate even if they cannot be in person. Of course, this is programmed as an in-person event, so it will be much better if people can come to Salamanca, of course. But if some of you, some participants cannot by whatever reason, we also have the possibility of introducing presentations, not only posters like in the previous conference, but also papers, participation in panels, even in roundtables online. So participants who cannot be in person by whatever reason will have the opportunity to be part of the conference in another way. We will be streaming all presentations because each room at the conference has all the settings, cameras, microphones, absolutely everything, because that was already installed by the university for the online teaching during the academic semester that is already finishing. I have just to remind to some of the audience who incorporated to this session late, that the University of Salamanca was teaching in person since September. That worked pretty well. There was no problem. Everything was arranged according to the sanitary measures and respecting absolutely everything that was already commanded by the university and by the Ministry of Health and all the stuff. It worked perfectly. There was almost no cases of contagion among students or among professors, so everything worked pretty well. And of course, we expect that the situation will be even the same, or of course better, because vaccination is going very, very smoothly and progressing very fast in Spain and in some other countries. I would say that travel bans should be probably lifted in some months if the situation continues the way it is, or the way it is expected to be in few months. So I'm quite optimistic in that sense. Of course, we have to take into account the possibility that things, by whatever reason, get worse. In that case, we have still the online part of the conference. Of course, we are a little bit sick of online events. Most of us, of course, prefer an in-person conference because it has some other opportunities. Also, networking opportunities that cannot be the same, of course, in an online event, because the academic event is, of course, the most important part of the conference, but you also have to network with your colleagues, go for lunch, go for a drink, or whatever you want to do, apart from, of course, attending papers, lectures, and all this stuff. We also have a part, of course, from the academic part, which will be arranged in around 30 rooms, perhaps more, depending on the number of participants. We will have panels on many topics: linguistics, literature, history of different periods, of course, politics, economy, all types of arts, history of science, absolutely every single topic you can imagine within the field of Iranian studies, which is, of course, as you know, huge. Apart from that, of course, we will have perhaps more than 400 participants, if at least those that were already registered in the previous conference participate, and perhaps we can add some more. So it will be a huge conference. And I also planned for last conference, and in this case, I think we can count on that because it is already confirmed. We will have also a guided sightseeing tour because you know Salamanca is one of the most beautiful cities in Spain. It has the oldest university in Spain, 800 years old. It's a UNESCO heritage also. It's a very beautiful place also to visit. So of course, you will have to be focused on the academic stuff, but you will have also time to enjoy the city. That's also part of the event. I also planned a concert that will be also very interesting, because it will be a concert between, well, it will be an ensemble between a Spanish musician playing together with an Iranian musician. And it will be very, very interesting, very beautiful too. So I think it's just a very good opportunity. That's a very, very general overview of the conference. Of course, I'm looking forward to your questions and other details you want me to explain.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For that wonderful introduction. All of that sounds very, very exciting. I want to get in a little bit into the academic side of things. I know that we had a little chat about submissions coming in as we are speaking right now. There's still more time. Can you talk a little bit about how these submissions are reviewed and how are the papers chosen? And also, can you also talk a little bit about the difference between submitting individually and submitting as a panel?
Each single paper, either individually or as part of a panel or a roundtable or a special session, that would be also the case, will be reviewed by experts in the field. We have a committee with around 20 people covering all most important, of course, not every single, but all big fields within Iranian studies. And of course, imagine you have a paper related to gender studies, a specialist in gender studies will review it. I distribute myself all the papers, all the different participants within this committee, and they will review every single abstract. That's a guarantee, of course, of quality, and that's part of the academic event. And related to your second question, what's the difference between individual participation, for instance, a paper, or being part of a panel? Well, basically for the review process, that's not a very big difference, because, of course, the reviewers of a panel have to go through all single abstracts. But it doesn't mean that because you are part of a panel, you are covered, so to say. That would not be fair, as you can imagine, because every single panel has different participants, different topics, and all of them will be reviewed. So if you participate individually, doesn't mean that you will have less chances to go through the reviewing process. That's not the case. Quality is exactly the same, regardless of the fact that you are part of a panel, roundtable, or special session, or that you want to participate individually. If you participate individually, there is a second, not problem, but a second question, which is how your paper will be distributed, where exactly you will be speaking. That, of course, will depend on the many different topics that will be part of the conference. That's, of course, much easier if you already arrange a panel that is fixed more or less thematically, or is already a part, a compact part. That's much easier, of course, to distribute among sessions than the individual participation. Individual participation will depend on the number of speakers that are related more or less to the topic you are presenting. Sometimes it's easier because more or less you have, for instance, one or two places that must be filled in, and your paper fits perfectly in that part. But in other cases, that will not be always so easy. So I recommend, if possible, of course, to arrange a panel. When that's not possible, that's not a problem. You can also participate individually, but then you will have to take into account that sometimes, I try that it is only few times, but sometimes your paper will not be exactly where you would like it to be. That's the only problematic part of it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your answer. It all sounds very exciting, and I learned a lot. Roina, would you like to continue the discussion and ask our other panelists questions?
Hello, hi. Thank you very much for that. That's very, very interesting, and I'm very excited. I really hope that I'm sure that it will be a great conference next year, and I'm looking forward to visiting Salamanca as well. So my next question is to Lior, and I was wondering if you could maybe talk more about how we can make conference papers happen, basically. What is the general consensus? Is it better to write a fresh paper with new research, or is it better to take existing research and then turning it into a conference paper? What is the process that goes in? I mean, it's quite daunting when you have, I don't know, a thesis and then you want to reduce it to a 20-minute presentation, or and some others also write a conference paper to go with that. So if what are your thoughts generally about how you approach presenting at conferences? And then another question I'd like to ask is, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about this, is how to network at conferences. This is the classic question. It's not just about presenting papers, it's about seeking opportunities and also making that coffee break the most essential part of it. So what are your best tips to approaching speakers as well as publishers? Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for the questions, and Leila and Rowena for organizing it. And conferences happen to be one of my favorite topics in the academic life, so I'm especially grateful. So I'll try to address the three parts of the questions simultaneously, because I think that it is interconnected. In terms of strategy, my advice to PhD students would be to, when you think about topic for presentation, I would say that strategically you have to present each chapter of your dissertation. So this is actually a wonderful opportunity to workshop your dissertation without calling it a workshop. You force yourself to plan ahead, which is something that we're terrible at. You force yourself to plan ahead, to write down the abstract. You already start to think about your chapter. You already start, if it's your second conference, you start to think about how it connects to the previous presentation. You also create yourself some kind of trajectory in the field that people remember you from previous conferences, and they want to see what you've made with your project so far. And so generally I would suggest to present chapters. When you write the abstract, you don't have to have the research done, because you still have, especially in the AIS cycle, we have over a year between the submission and the conference. So if you started the research and you know where it's going, and just write it down and cash it later. If your abstract is accepted, then you take it to the bank. But it helps you to think about your dissertation project or your research project as a whole. So this would be my first advice. In terms of individual paper versus organizing panel, I will connect it to the networking question, because networking doesn't begin when you come to the conference site. Networking is something that you do not because of some networking effort, but because of the nature of your work and the nature of our work and our community. So I'll say that when you organize a panel, you get to choose how to place your work, who's going to read your work, and who's going to discuss the panel papers. So this is an opportunity, and this is something that I had done many times as a PhD student. I organize panels, and you sometimes you have this excellent scholar in your field that you want them to read your paper, but you don't know how, like you can't just reach out of the blue. So organizing panel is actually an opportunity to reach out to them and say, would you like to be discussant on my panel? And then you know that you're going to get feedback for your paper from this scholar who's, their own work or their own input is extremely important for your own progress. So I say that organizing panel is an opportunity to network with more senior scholars, but also with your peers, because you invite other people from your cohort, from your class, to be part of your panel, and then you get a better sense of what other people work on and how, and there are also generational differences. So it connects you better to your own peers. It gives you the opportunity to connect with more senior scholars. And I follow up on what Miguel said. Pre-planned panels are more appealing to those who read the programs and decide which panel to go, because there's logical sequence in the presentations. Usually, if let's say you work on oil, so you bring historians who work on labor, on oil, on Khuzestan, and then you bring someone who can comment on and like put it all together, wrap it up, right? And for someone who is interested in learning on this topic, even if they don't work on oil, but the way that the panel is together appeals to them because they get like full picture of a topic, of timely research in one panel. So I say that if you have the opportunity, organize panel. Sometimes it's a lot of work. It's coordinating, it's making sure that you get abstracts on time and doing all the edits and fixing and writing the panel abstract, but it's well worth it. And I think that it shows and it yields dividends to those who put the effort in. Other than that, networking is, again, it's not something that you do for the purpose of networking. It's something that just happens. And I'll say that coffee breaks are extremely important. And I hope that in Salamanca we'll have better coffee than we usually had. I trust Spain to to show the qualities of the Spanish cafe. But also, I say that the most interesting part of every conference starts after the panels are done. And you go to the bar, to the hotel bar, and then, this is where you really make friends and connect and reconnect with people that you get to see sometimes only in conferences. So I say, when you come, and I know that people are different, and some are more extroverts and some introverts, and it doesn't come easily to everyone. But try to enjoy. Don't think about it. Don't think about your time in the presence of other people as you're being put to test. Have fun. Don't feel obliged to talk only about your work. And then when actual networking conversation takes place and you notice it immediately, don't just talk, also listen. Be curious, be nice, be kind. And you'll be surprised to see, it's fun and it's such a stimulating intellectual experience. And I've been to every Iranian Studies Conference since 2010, since my first year in grad school. And it's one of my favorite conferences. And so really, when you come to a conference, have fun. Come, do your work, prepare your presentation, practice it, do all the things that you have to do academically, but also come to enjoy it, come to meet people, to hang out with people, enjoy the wonderful occasions that we have for conferences. And these are my recommendations in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Leo, for that. I think what you said just now about listening and not just talking is a very important one. I think I remember one of my first conferences, I just talk without really paying attention to my surroundings or what other people were saying, and I missed a lot. And I think that's something that I've learned also, to be patient as well, to wait your turn. And yeah, and I think it's just about good practices as what kind of academic you want to be, and projecting that image as well. I think conferences are a very good opportunity for that. So thank you so much for sharing your tips, and for especially the strategy about writing and getting people to workshop your work. I think it's very true. I think that happens a lot. My work has certainly improved thanks to the comments that I've gotten from other participants. So thank you. Great reminders. I'll hand it back to Christine now for the final round of questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So my question is from Leila. Leila, I know that you've attended a lot of these Iranian studies conferences, and you've also helped organize this conference and also other conferences. What would your main takeaways be as an organizer and also as an attendee? That's my first question. And then my second question is, what are your top tips for how to network at the conference, especially as grad students? And finally, I know that some people are joining this conference virtually. What do you think would be some of the pros and cons of presenting and attending in person versus attending virtually? I know that's a lot of questions. I hope we can get to all of them.
Yes, I jotted down everything. So thank you so much, Christine, and thank you to all the panelists, Rowena, and the attendees. It's great to be here with you. So I wrote a lot of things down for you. I hope it's helpful. These are just my own experiences, and I'm not saying that everybody should do these things, but these are the things that I have done, and so far they have worked well. I honestly highly recommend organizing a conference, organizing a panel or a conference, because you get to be involved in the planning process as well. And it's a really humbling experience. You appreciate work that, for instance, Miguel is doing. You need to be impartial, think about all the logistics. How does the room look? How does the visual aspects of the flyer looks? How does the Zoom functions work? So it's just a lot. It's a lot of organization, and it's truly helpful to be on that end of the work as well. So you just have to do it, because it's going to be part of your work as well. And also by evaluating other people's abstracts, you get to know what actually makes a good abstract, so you can adjust your own work accordingly. And by training your eye, you'll improve your chances of sending out a better abstract. So as we all say, read a lot so that you can get to know the organization of how papers are written by advanced scholars. The same thing applies to abstracts. The more abstracts you read, honestly, the better your work becomes. And in the process of organizing smaller conferences, one of the reasons maybe that your abstract might not be chosen is not necessarily the quality of your work, but how the papers speak to each other. Maybe your abstract was a bit outside of the collective of the abstracts that were accepted. So don't get disheartened. It just, maybe it wasn't a good fit, but getting rejected at conferences is not like a stamp in your resume that, oh my God, you failed. So just continue doing it. Practice makes perfect, as people always say. And by organizing and hosting a conference, you have a major chance to network. You'll be in close communication with a massive pool of excellent scholars, and you get to use this opportunity to make yourself more known. And if your co-organizers feel like the conference proceedings can be published, you get to be part of the editorial staff if you choose to. You get to be a co-editor or main editor of this publication, and this is also another fantastic opportunity for your career. It's honest, hard work, but honestly, I do think that it's necessary for graduate students to volunteer and take up this kind of work, especially if you're planning to stay in academia. Organizing such events is going to be part of your job, so better get a head start, you know. And I'm going to share some of the tips that have worked for me, kind of piggybacking on what Lior said. These are the things that I've done to really actively participate in conferences. Print out your business card and exchange your card with people you get in touch with. Get your name out there. The more you get your name out there, the more opportunities find you, actually. Know how to pitch your project and talk about your presentation in a few sentences. Practice that, really, because like for me, I'm a nervous person. I need to practice everything that I talk about. So the more practice I get, the more calm I feel. So practice your presentation in a few sentences. What was your argument? And let people know what you're working on. This way, opportunities, again, will come and find you. Conferences are a great place to know your community. It's not just admiring scholars, but if you communicate and get in touch with scholars who are in the same fields, or you're interested in their research interests and you'll be following their work, talk to them, spark up a conversation, say how much you appreciate their work, and build your own community. You don't have to just rely on your advisors and your committee members to be your community, but actively build your own, find your scholar tree, you know. And honestly, go to as many panels as you possibly can and take notes during the talks. If they spark up your interest, jot some questions down. Talk to the panelists after the panel is over and ask them questions about their research. Be really engaged with them. And this way they will remember you, and hopefully when they find some opportunities that might be where your work is, they'll send it your way. And honestly, essentially just show your face. Talk about your work and share contact information with the people you meet. Just by putting yourself out there, you'll honestly make things happen for you. And one tip that I just did it, and somehow miraculously it worked. Be blunt about the fact that you're looking to get published. Talk to scholars you admire, talk to people who are in the same field, and tell them that if they find if the publication opportunity, please send it your way. Or like if it's their own publication opportunity or their colleagues, anything, just tell them that this is something that you're actively looking for, and it will come your way. This is also how I got some of my publication opportunities. And what Lior said really makes sense. If you have a trajectory, because yes, it's a massive world, but if you find your community, you see them at every conference. And if they follow your work, and if they follow the presentations that you make, and they get a sense of what you're working on and working with, then they know how to approach you better, or present you with some opportunities, and you can ask them about opportunities easier as well, because they will know how you work and how you've done things. Now we get to in-person versus virtual. In-person opportunities, just like in-person conferences are so much better. I'm sure everybody knows that, but they're just so much better. And get to know the venue earlier if it's possible for you. Go earlier in the morning and stay later after the last panel if you can. People tend to hang out at book bazaars, nearby cafes and bars, just like Lior said. These are great places to network and get to know people. And I don't mean just seeking out advanced scholars. You can network with emerging scholars such as yourselves. And these connections honestly can be even more valuable because you're in the same boat. You can help each other when it comes to reading each other's work, sharing job and scholarship opportunities, and collaborating on articles. They can help you. I mean, you can both share best practices, relevant books you find interesting. So again, you're building your community with this. And they can also later on become your colleagues somewhere. And it's good to have these connections under your belt. And if people are not at cafes or bars, ask them if you can get some coffee with them and talk about scholarship. Honestly, conferences are the best places and we feel more alive, people who are in the academia. So use this opportunity. Don't be shy. Just put yourself out there. And I don't mean like creeping up on people either, but like professionally ask them out, you know? And a tip on virtual conferences, it's definitely harder to network. You tend to get more tired and possibly distracted as life happens. And in webinars, there's no place to hang out with people and get to know others. People tend to show up for their own presentation and don't really see them in other panels. And the chat function might be disabled. So there's a lot of technological barriers for you in virtual conferences for networking. But honestly, the only good thing that I have found about virtual conferences is you get to see people from different parts of the world, scholarship from people who might not be able to travel. So this is great to get a better sense of the field in that sense. But the only other good thing is you can hide your nerves because no one will see that you're fidgeting with your hands. And in-person conferences, yeah, people will see all your moves. But now, like I can do all these things with my hands and no one will know that I'm a nervous person. So that's the only good thing, honestly. But yeah, that's all I've got for you, Christine.
Thank you so much, Layla. There were a lot of great tips, but I think my main takeaway was just be assertive and be confident. And you're asking other people about their work. Chances are they would love to talk about their work with people who show interest. I think Dr. Miguel had something to add to your notes.
It was just a brief comment because I was seeing some of the questions. I answered a few of them. And one of them was, even if I'm not presenting, will I have networking opportunities at a conference? Of course, in my opinion, of course, I would say for sure, because it's not only a question of you are participating, you are talking, you are visible. So to say you are known to the field, not necessarily. You just may attend because you are interested in that. I remember, for instance, my first international conference. It was a conference in which I was just attending the conference without participating at all. I was a PhD student at that time. It was in Ravenna, in Italy. It was a very, very, very interesting conference for many, many reasons. Academically, personally, of course, a nice place to be, and so on. And I met, I would say, most of the big authorities in the field in my concrete specialty that time. I was hanging out with them, having lunch, having dinner, and it was my first conference. I didn't present absolutely anything. Of course, I was also with my supervisor there, who also, of course, helped in that sense. But take this opportunity too. It's not just a question about presenting your research, which is, of course, very important. If you don't present your research, because either you are still not that advanced in order to present it, but still you want to participate in the event, you want to meet the people, you want to be part of it, part of the field. You can be part of the field in many senses. That's also one of them. I would for sure recommend you to be part of the event, even if you are not presenting. Just register attend the conference and enjoy the opportunity, because this is also an opportunity.
I did notice that.
Thank you so much. Sorry.
Yes, Elmira Louis has a question
Sorry,
for me. Maybe I can address that. So Elmira has asked, how do you go about helping organize a conference? What is the process like, and who do you need to reach out to? The conferences that I have organized were either part of the student organization that I was a part of, or I was in a research institute and there were faculty members helping me out. The student-run ones tend to be a bit more challenging to find people to submit their abstracts to, but if there is a more advanced scholar that you can be in touch with and share the conference call, then they can help you out with seeking scholars to submit it to publication. And I do believe that the pandemic has created a lot of new collectives. We have the Iranian Studies Collective, and then we've got Rowena's collective. So reach out to these collectives. There's a Facebook page. Rowena has an Twitter and Instagram and YouTube channel. So these are some places that people have already created an audience for. So they can share your conference call. Seek out council members such as ourselves. And we have our own network too. We can help you out with your conference call. But yes, having a like a network of faculty members who are a little bit more advanced in the field will definitely help out. One of the conferences that I was part of, they knew some contacts with major forums, and it was really easy to find people to submit their work to this conference. But I would say that the most difficult part is actually getting that conference call out there and getting people to submit. Otherwise, the rest just falls into place. But I am happy to help you out, Elmira. If there's any more detailed questions, reach out to me.
If I may add to what Leila said, I think that if you have a good idea for a conference, talk with people in your department, and sometimes there are many ways to go about in creating a conference, and one of them is actually to first find the funding, and it's easier than it sounds, because every department has budget that is designated for some events. They usually don't use all of it in the academic year. They lose whatever they don't use. So if you go between 6 and 10 departments in your college, you may find like a good substantial budget to start thinking about it. And then you can invite a keynote speaker. And then when you advertise your call for papers and there is a keynote speaker who is a prominent figure in the topic, your chances of getting more submissions increases significantly. So that's one way to go about.
Thank you thanks so much for all these amazing tips. And firstly, before we continue with the question and answer session, I just want to say thank you again to Leila, Lior, and Miguel for their for going into our questions and answering them so wonderfully. The other thing I wanted to add is I think all my stationery is from conferences. And that's one of the nicest things I've always enjoyed, the little bits that you get, and the book fairs. Definitely, we always come back with like a stack of books, and it's also a great place to, especially if you're a student and you've got to be careful with budget. That's where you get really good discounts for books and that sort of thing. So it's a really good place to do your shopping as well. Just wanted to
Wait
add
for
that.
the last hour of the conference.
I know
This is when publishers give away books.
It's true. It's brilliant. I mean, and this is where you get journal copies and things that are usually very expensive and very hard to find. So that is something I just wanted to add to that. And generally, as I've already said, AIS conference has always been just the highlight of my calendar. I do wish it was every year, but every 2 years is fine. We'll manage. So I know that you've answered some of the questions that we've already received, and for those who are attending, please don't hesitate to keep writing your questions in the chat box. But I think Christine and I may take advantage of our chairing rights and ask questions of our own. So Christine, do you want to start first with your questions?
Of course, thank you so much, and thank you to all the panelists for all the information. I'm very excited, and I'm, as Roina said, taking advantage of this opportunity to ask a question that is more personal. So I want to ask about co-authored work and research that you've worked on with a supervisor, and how you can extract a presentation based on a work that you have done through collaboration. Should both of the authors or all of the authors be there to present, or is it possible for one of the more junior members of the research team to present on behalf of the group? Should we just present the section that we specifically worked on, or the entire work? Yeah, we talked a lot about opportunities and basically collaborations. I guess what I'm asking is how to present those works that are the result of the collaborations.
I can go first. So I'll say that I don't have experience in presenting co-authored work, but it's about academic etiquette. Yeah, I'll keep it short and then I'll pass the mic to Miguel. I think that you don't have to have all the authors present in order to present it, but you have to make sure that, when you present the research, you give credit to all your partners and colleagues who worked with you on this project. I think that it makes sense to give, if there's a hierarchy among the collaborators, it makes sense to me, and I guess that it's individual. I think that it makes sense to let the more junior person to present it. But in general, I mean, think strategically about this kind of collaboration as well. I mean, don't make sure that you have enough work of your own, especially when you're in the, still working on your PhD. Make sure that you have enough work of your own before you branch out to collaborative works.
Thank you so much for that. If there are any other panelists who want to add to that, if not, Roina, the floor is all yours.
I think I just wanted to maybe, if possible, if no one has anyone else. Oh, sorry, Miguel, were you going to say something?
It was just to build on Lior's remark. I participated in a conference together with my supervisor, and I can give you, it's not a tip, it's just my experience in that case. We presented together, we worked together on the paper. Of course, the name of both of us was present in the presentation too, and it worked pretty well. It depends how you want to arrange it with your supervisor. You can be the only presenter. The supervisor can be also the only presenter if you arrange it, but of course, both names should be there because you worked both on that. You can, of course, participate in a much broader work in which 20 people could have participated. That's very often in science is the case. And all of them get the credit for sure. One of them might be the presenter, or you might decide to be two presenters. One of them might be the first, the other could be the second. This is something you can arrange with the other participants or with your supervisor if you are just two people. You can just decide. But of course, it's important that your name is also there because you are part of the work for sure. So it must be recognized. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, collaborations are always fun. And you get to see a lot of different perspectives. It's a little difficult to separate and differentiate the parts when teamwork has been really great. But yeah, I think my main takeaway is making sure that everyone is credited. We have another question, Roina. Would you like to ask the other question that we have in the chat?
Sure. Sure, thank you. We've from Elmira, and it's for Miguel. The question is, will there be any panels, meetings, or discussions or information on comparative research regarding, for example, Spanish and Persian text? They were wondering if there will be a discussion on this in connection with the location of it being in Spain. And if you don't mind if I piggyback on that, right, on that question a little bit, I think that's kind of related to whether I noticed that there is an option to actually have a roundtable discussion. So what are the opportunities and benefits of actually having one of those yourselves and taking the opportunity to doing that? What is the difference really between a roundtable and a panel?
Should I? Well, the first question is related to
yes, please.
Spanish.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Sorry. Related to Spanish and Persian research, comparative research. There were, to my knowledge, I think there were 2 papers in the previous conference, in the previous arranged conference about that topic, but I don't remember exactly what they were about. I think they were about Spanish and Persian relations during the 16th or 17th century, and another one about a similar topic. And I think there was also about Persian literature and Spanish literature, but I don't remember exactly the topic. I'm sorry, because there were so many topics you can imagine. I don't remember all of them, of course, but there was something related to that. I don't know, of course, in the next conference there will be even more or just the same. I don't know. This is something I cannot tell. And related to a difference between panel and roundtable. Roundtables are special types of, it's not exactly a panel, it's something where you can arrange many more people. In a panel, you have a maximum of 4 participants. And in a panel, you have 4 presentations, 3 presentations on a very concrete specific topic, while roundtables are bigger discussions where perhaps 7 people, 8 people can be part of it. And of course, you will be in a dialogue with other people within the room. It's not just you are presenting and you are waiting for your answers and it's not the same. It has a different format. And of course, you have also another limit of participants. It's not just 4 maximum, like in a panel. So there are a few differences.
Thank you so much. I also wanted to use up my co-organizational privileges to ask one question. I know that scholarship, like writing a paper and coming up with an original topic to present at a conference, is really hard to come by. And it's also frowned upon to present a similar looking paper at multiple conferences. How different do your presentations need to be in order for them not to be, again, frowned upon, tweaking it just a little bit? Will it do? Do we have to have a different argument for this for different presentations? So if any of you, Lior or Miguel, could speak to that, that would be great.
I can go first. I think that especially when you're in in graduate school. It makes sense that if you go to Iranian studies and then to Mesa, you get different audiences. It makes sense to present it. And if you listen carefully and do the work, the papers are not going to be identical because you had already presented it in one conference. You listen to the comments, the questions, the different feedback that you got for it. You revise it already, and it's already something else. There was one of my chapters in my dissertation. I presented it, I think, in 3 different versions in Mesa and Iranian Studies and the Association of Israel Studies. And it resulted, I mean, I think that it was between 2 of them, my article in Iranian Studies came out. And so the different comments that I got from the different conferences actually allowed me to rethink the project so many times that when it became a chapter of my dissertation, not of my book, I could credit only to the 3 different presentations and the many comments and, again, workshopping it in conferences. So, conferences, presentations are not, I mean, this is not how you showcase your potential or this is something very specific. This is presentation of one niche of your project. So it's okay to investigate and dig deeper and, squeeze it because it's important. This is the essence, for me, this is the essence of conferences in the, the intellectual part of it. So I think that, when you write the abstract, try to reflect the changes that you've already done to the project since the last presentation, but it's okay to present it more than once.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful. Honestly, helpful to me personally. Dr. Miguel, would you like to make some comments on this, or should we move on to another question?
It's fine. I think you're already answered perfectly.
Great.
There's a question in Q&A, and one of our attendees wants to know if there are measures to ensure the conference is accessible to participants with disabilities.
Well, the question would be, in case special accommodation is needed, I would recommend to tell in advance, because depending on the type of accommodation needed, it might be easy or it might require some extra help or some extra preparation, some extra logistics, so to say. Buildings are accessible in all senses, but of course, depending on the type of disability or special need required, I might need, of course, some preparation in advance. So I please recommend in those cases to tell me in advance. So.
Well, do we have any other questions from the audience or from among each other?
I think we
If not, then I think excellent, because I think we've done very, very well, and I've learned certainly a lot about conferences, and I think that we can draw the session to a close. But I just wanted to say again.
There's one
sorry.
by James
Yes.
Bunton.
I just see it, and we have got 2 more questions actually.
Oh yeah, there are 2. Yes.
Wow.
Okay, so sorry, I spoke too early. Yes, sorry, Leila. You can.
Yeah, so James is asking, where is the best place to learn about conferences that you may be able to present? Yeah, go here. I'd
say that, make sure that you're signed up for all the listservs, HNet, check out the MESA website, the Iranian Studies, social networks. I mean, it works. Most conferences are being advertised, most call for papers are being advertised on these platforms. So
I might add to that a little bit, use this opportunity to promote our social media accounts on Twitter and on Facebook. AIS social media tries to bring to your attention the latest talks, the latest conferences, or other opportunities in Iranian studies specifically. So make sure you follow us on Twitter and on Facebook if you already haven't. And as for joining the listserv, signing up for membership at the AIS, it will give you access to our listserv and also a lot of other benefits such as discounts for conferences, discounts for getting our journal. So I'm gonna drop the links in chat, and if you already haven't, please follow our accounts and sign up to be a member.
Definitely, definitely. We have actually one more question from Zainab, and they ask how can we guess the chances of being accepted for conferences as junior scholars? Is there a numbers game that we can play? Perhaps Miguel can answer this.
Well, of course, there is not a magical thing to say about that or a special trick or whatever. I would just recommend to write a good abstract for sure, and to be sure that you are presenting an innovative research. I think that would be the pillars of that. If you are demonstrating innovative research and you're writing a good abstract, your chances are very, very high. So I would say.
I don't have
suppose if I could just add, oh, sorry,
information
Leila.
about that, but if you are concerned that as a junior scholar, you might not have that high of a chance to get accepted, please don't hesitate to reach out to your faculty members or your peers to check out your abstract. I know it might be daunting to ask for help, but honestly, this is what we're here for. If we as academics don't have each other's backs, then who else will? So seek help, get people to read your abstract and comment on it. And the more refined your abstract will be, the higher your chances of getting accepted, for sure.
Definitely. And just another tip about abstract writing, also have a look at journal abstracts and see how they've written. That's also another way that I've learned to write abstracts about, what can we put in a good conference abstract. It's always good to see how others have written them. Have I answered everything? Are there any lagging questions that we've missed out on? If not, then I think that we can now officially draw the session to a close. So I just want to say again, a really big thanks to all our speakers and to Christine and Leila again for all your help putting this session together, and for Nakme, who's not here, but who's always been giving such great support and encouragement for all of us. So a big round of applause. I'm doing that virtually, and I wish we could all go for a nice coffee or a nice meal after this, but hopefully in person at Salamanca. So thank you again, personally, and for everyone. Thank you. Christine, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I wanted to promote the upcoming presidential sessions as well. We will have a session on antiquity work with Dr. Khodadad. This is going to come up real soon. The graduate students on the council have 2 more sessions for you. One on the academic job market and another one, a social gathering, because around December time, that will be a social gathering. We would love to hear what your ideas for future panels would be, as I'm going to be the outgoing member and another student member will take place. So we would love to hear what you would like to see from us. So please stay tuned.
Thank you so much to all the panelists and everybody who joined. We're officially putting an end to this session. Stay tuned for all of our upcoming presidential sessions that Leila mentioned on our social media. So I guess I'll see you soon and hope that you enjoy the rest of your Friday. Bye.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to welcoming you in Salamanca.